Are you invested in foreign real estate or thinking about selling a foreign rental property? Well, this video is for you. I recently got an email from a client and he said to me, I just got an offer on my Mexican rental property I can't refuse, but selling it would trigger a sizable gain for me. Can you help me minimize taxes on this? And that's a pretty typical email that I get, right? It always ends with help me save taxes. In this situation, I think we can actually help this guy. So what this video is going to talk about is the US taxation of foreign rental properties in general and the sale of foreign rental properties. We'll talk about layering that in with how that works on the Mexican side and the, I guess, implications of working with the two jurisdictions on that property sale. And then what we can do about the gain, how we can possibly defer it or eliminate it in certain situations. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, my name's Alex McGowan. I'm the owner at McGowan Tax LLC, where we help small businesses and individuals with international assets, international transactions, comply with the US tax law so that you're not hit with unnecessary penalties, as well as minimize your taxes and making sure you're not paying more tax than you actually need to. So in this situation, we're going to talk about the sale of a Mexican rental property when you're a US citizen. Now, this is going to apply the same whether you're actually living in Mexico or whether you're living in the US. And it's generally the same rule with any foreign country. I'm just focusing on Mexico because of this email. But if you have a gain on the sale of rental property that's outside the US, the general rule is the US is going to tax it the same way as if it was US property. So you're going to have to pick up that gain in the US. There's depreciation recapture, which is going to be taxed at your ordinary income rate. And you're going to have capital gain on the sale of the property itself. That's going to be taxable in the US. Now, the foreign jurisdiction is going to likely also tax that property. And we always have to work with a local advisor. Be very cautious of talking with one person who claims to know two different countries' tax laws, because that can be very complicated. If you're liking this video, you should really check out my newsletter where I put out different tips and tricks, latest law changes that can really help you save money and save complexity if you're living or investing abroad. Just think how much you could save with the right tax advice. I generally would work with somebody in Mexico to figure out what is the tax treatment of that sale locally. And because it's a Mexican property and that's where the property is physically sitting, that's going to be foreign source income from a US perspective. So if there is gain and taxation in Mexico, we'd get a credit in the US for the taxes paid on that property in Mexico. In other words, as long as if the Mexican tax was higher than the US tax, we would be able to offset all of the tax on that gain in the US, so there's no tax in the US. But in this case, it's my understanding that there's some kind of exemption in Mexico that they're able to get. So it's really just a US tax problem. So we have two real options that I look at for deferring taxation on foreign property sales. And again, it's a deferral. There's really no way to eliminate it altogether when it's a rental property. You eventually have to pay tax on that gain. But one thing you can do is what's called a Section 1031 exchange. You may have heard of this about with US properties. It has to be a business property, so it has to be a rental property, and there's some types of investment properties that can apply, and that's where it gets a little tricky. But with a rental property, it's pretty straightforward in that it will be considered a business property. And so you can do a 1031 exchange where you sell that property, you defer the gain into the purchase of another business property. So in other words, you sell this one property in Mexico, you can purchase another rental property and roll that gain into the new property. So you're deferring the gain into the further sale. Now, there's very specific rules for how you follow that Section 1031 process, and you generally need to get a broker or somebody that's very familiar with that process to make sure you follow the steps. And I'll do another video actually on those actual steps for the 1031 exchange. But what's important here is that when you have a foreign property, it has to be a foreign to foreign exchange. So you can't exchange a Mexican property for a US property and have that qualify for the 1031 treatment. You have to exchange it for another foreign property. You can sell your Mexican property and buy a Costa Rican property or a property in Switzerland. It can be any foreign to foreign, it just can't be foreign to US. So that's my main way of deferring the gain on this property. One other that's a little bit more outside the box and takes some planning in advance is what's called self-directed IRA investments. So you can actually put foreign property into a retirement plan. So you can set up these alternative investment structures where the IRA itself purchases the property, and in that case, the gain is always deferred. You can buy and sell properties within that IRA so that it's deferring taxation until you ultimately take that out. And then there's all kinds of things you can do from there, like converting it to a Roth IRA potentially. A couple of things you have to know about that alternative investment type is that it can't be for any personal use. So if you put a foreign rental property, or any rental property for that matter, into IRA structure, then you can't use that property personally. If you have questions about foreign real estate or selling foreign real estate, visit us at our website, mcgowantax.com, and reach out for a free cross-border tax diagnosis. If you're enjoying this video, please take a minute to like and subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below.